Hey everybody, welcome to another video, and I want to just quickly apologize for the vertical video this morning, but I'm driving and I had something I wanted to sort of talk about, so I had to kind of go with the in-the-moment vertical video. So what I wanted to talk about was, for you photographers out there, there's a lot of different options for when you go to pick your camera. I mean, there's different manufacturers, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Pentax, Olympus, Panasonic, so many. And so many of those different cameras have, some of them have certain features other ones don't have. Some have different tech that's available. But in the end, things have gotten so good that the playing field is really, really level. And what I mean by that is it kind of doesn't matter what you go with. So it doesn't really make a difference if you're going around and shopping. And when I say shopping, I mean, comparing specs, well, the Sony has this sensor and the Nikon's got this sensor that's been there since whatever year, but Canon's got this one, and Canon just came out with this sensor and has this tech. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't make a difference. Wow, I got bright. I'm sorry. It really doesn't matter in the end, because here's what it comes down to one thing, and that's the feel. Photography, just like even painting and drawing, is an art form, and you have to feel like you're connected with whatever camera you're shooting with, because if you don't, you're not going to want to shoot with it. And I can kind of tell you from an experience that sort of I've been having, that I went through a couple of different camera bodies before I actually found something that was right for me. So I shot Canon for many years, then I went and shot Nikon for a couple of years, and I just did that for fun, really. I mean, just because I had no problem switching platforms. I just wanted to get that experience and kind of prove to myself that it really doesn't matter what you're shooting with in terms of name brand stuff, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Olympus, whatever. But you have to like the feel of what you're holding. So let me tell you kind of where I'm going with this. So for those unaware, I like to travel. I love to travel, and I try to travel as often as I can when time permits and vacation time allows and all that good stuff, because work always sort of dictates whether I can go somewhere or what my options are for traveling. So whenever I go someplace, I always like to take good pictures. Who doesn't? So previously I would travel with my Nikon D7100, which is pretty big and bulky and heavy. And some time ago I thought, I'd love to get something smaller that's more portable, that will still give me the sort of functionality that an SLR would give me, and allow me to have manual exposure control and all that good stuff. So that's when I got the Panasonic G7, and that was nice because it was an interchangeable lens camera. It had it was micro four thirds, so it was a smaller sensor, but that was fine. And it was a good camera, but it was still big. It wasn't that much smaller. So I was like, well, okay, maybe I can try something that's a little bit a little smaller, see how that goes. So then I went for the GX85, which was a even smaller Panasonic form factor, and tech-wise and image quality-wise and all that stuff, it was great. I really had no problem with it whatsoever. But the thing about the G7 and the GX85 that didn't work for me came down to the fact that, being a mirrorless camera, it wasn't a camera that let me monitor directly through the lens, because I'm a viewfinder shooter. I've tried to get into the whole LCD shooting and whatnot. I mean, I do it with my iPhone because my iPhone doesn't have a viewfinder, but I only do that out of the necessity, because there's no viewfinder on the iPhone. If I have a camera, I'm going to be using a viewfinder. It's just how I've been doing it and how I prefer to shoot. And the the G7 and the GX85 viewfinders are LED or OLED screens, digital screens inside the viewfinder. It's not a true prism looking through the lens, and that just never felt right to me. And it made me not want to shoot with either camera. I didn't use the G7 as much, the GX85. I just didn't like using them because of the fact that they were not a true. It wasn't a true prism viewfinder. So I wound up finding that for me to be happy and for me to want to shoot with something, it's got to be a kind of tried and true, traditional style, regular prism viewfinder. And I realized I'm going to have to go with a full size. I don't mean full frame, but like a full size digital SLR. So I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do, because I've traveled with my D7100 before. I can travel with something of a similar form factor again, and that's why I've got the ADD now, because it's a regular size SLR that fits comfortably in my hands, that I can hold. It's a regular prism, through the lens viewfinder, and the camera feels great to shoot with, and I'm gonna want to shoot with it. In fact, I carry it with me now as often as I can. I carry my ADD with me. I'm not going to carry my 5D Mark III around. That thing's a lot heavier, and it has a 24-105 f4 lens on it, so that's a lot heavier of a lens. This ADD has an 18-135 kit lens on it. Since it's my second camera body, I don't need to, and it's going to be something I carry around with me. It doesn't need to be all that. It doesn't have to have a super pricey lens on it, for just capturing average shots, because the kit lenses they're good. There's nothing wrong with them. I mean, they're not going to give you the same resolution and crispness as what you get on something like, an L series lens for Canon, but it's good. It's good enough. So the whole point of this little ramble, and sorry if it gets got a little long-winded, but don't just shop for your camera on specs and specs alone, because don't forget about the art side of it. This is an art form. You're an artist. You're capturing art, and you're artistically capturing a moment in time, or a scene, or an image. So shop on feel, and that's why you should always be able to go down to, you have a local camera shop in your area, go down to your local camera shop, or you can go to a Best Buy or a Target. A lot of these places have some SLRs on display. You're always going to get a much better experience going to a camera shop. So try to find a photography shop in your area. Go down there, even if you want to buy it online. If you find a good deal on, Amazon or whatever, you could buy it there, but don't just buy it based on the specs. Go down and actually pick one up and hold it, and try some test shots in your, in that environment, wherever you are. If you have a camera shop, that's better, because usually those cameras are not going to be tethered down, and then you can have the salesperson kind of walk around with you. The sales guy, my good friend at down at the camera shop here in Austin, he lets me take stuff outside, and he come every now and then. He'd come outside with me and tell me some stuff about the camera, or just say, hey, try taking a shot of this, or check this out, because it gives you a chance to, number one, step away from the counter, because when you're standing at the counter and you're just kind of panning around or looking at inside the store, yeah, you can get a basic feel for it, but unless you can actually go outside for 5-10 minutes and do some sort of real world shooting with it, and so almost be on your own with it a little bit, that's how you can kind of make that connection and decide whether you like the feel of it or not. And I would make sure you make your decision when it comes to shopping for a camera based on the feel. And this can also apply to point and shoots also, like the little tiny ones. So even if you're not a professional photographer, or not a SLR shooter photographer, like a big camera photographer, even if you just want to get a little tiny travel camera or something that you can keep in your pocket, go check that out too, because the form factor of the camera itself is one thing, but like the menus and the sort of software on the camera, and like that's all part of the feel too. So by all means, get your hands on the camera that you want to buy and play with it before you actually swipe your credit card, or before you pay for it, before you buy it, and make sure that's the right camera for you. So hope you enjoyed this, and hope this was informative. By all means, please feel free to hit that subscribe and like button if you like what I have up on my channel. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to check my stuff out, and I'll see you on the next one.